Hello, and welcome to the Full Send Half Mast Podcast, episode 22. Here I am. My name is Jay, and I am going to be running solo tonight. Tom couldn't make it. None of the other boys over here at Dega Boys can make it tonight, so I appreciate everybody for tuning in. We got a pretty big packed episode tonight. We're going to talk about the races that happened this weekend. We had ARCA at Elko. We had the Cups Truck and Xfinity over there at Nashville Super Speedway. We also had the IMSA series with the Pilot Challenge, as well as the WeatherTech series there at Watkins Glen for the 6 hours of the Glen weekend. It was a super awesome race. We'll talk about that here in a bit. And as well as preview the races this weekend. We got Formula 1 and Formula 2 racing this weekend. We got IndyCar racing as well this weekend, as well as NASCAR taking to the streets of Chicago Street Course. So big stuff going on this weekend as well as we close in on the entire Independence Day weekend here. So first off, we're going to start by getting straight into the news, and then we will get a quick word from our sponsor. So news so far this week that I've come up with is Bridgestone has submitted a bid to become the new tire supplier in the Formula 1 series. So Pirelli's been the main tire supplier here for quite a while now in the Formula 1 series. So it's very interesting to me to see Bridgestone make an attempt to become a tire supplier for Formula 1. It'll be very interesting to see if they can build a tire for Formula 1 that's going to be competitive. We know that tires in racing has been such a big, crucial factor here, as we've seen Goodyear kind of struggle here in NASCAR. And then you've obviously got Firestone, big supporter in IndyCar. And then you got Michelin, obviously, huge supporter in IMSA. So it'll be interesting to see what Bridgestone could come up with in the Formula 1 world. Also, very tragic, devastating news here. Today announced that Jimmie Johnson's going to be withdrawing from the Chicago Street Course with family tragedy there on his wife's side of the family. I don't want to talk too much about it. Pretty tragic. You could probably catch up on the news, but unfortunately, Jimmie Johnson will not be racing this weekend at Chicago Street Course race. Very sad stuff and moments going on in his family, and they respect a lot of peace and with that whole situation there. Very sad to see. All right, with that news being said, we're going to jump straight into a word from our sponsor. All right. Our sponsor here is Dubby. Dubby Energy Blends, introducing Neurofactor, an all-natural coffee cherry extract to help fuel you with energy, laser focus, and fast reflexes. Provides concentration with important amino acids, vitamins, and without the crash of ordinary canned energy drinks that they just cannot provide. Try amazing flavors such as Dragonade, Dub Sludge, Galaxy Grenade, and my personal favorite, Beach and Peach. Buy the starter pack today, including 2 flavors in a shake cup for an extremely low price. Follow the link in the description below and use promo code DEGABOYS for 10% off your order. Thanks to Dubby for their continued sponsorship of the Dega Boys Broadcasting Network here on YouTube. Alrighty. So, first off here, I want to talk about the races this weekend, right? We had Truck Cup and Xfinity back there at Nashville. A decent track in my opinion. It's not one of the worst intermediate tracks, but it's pretty entertaining. And then also, like I mentioned, we had the Pilot Challenge series as well as the IMSA WeatherTech series there at Watkins Glen. We also saw the MX5 Cup, which I want to talk about that a little bit as well. And then also we had the ARCA series there at Elko as they continue their season moving forward. So, first off, we'll talk about the truck race. The Rackley Roofing 200 at Nashville. We saw Nick Sanchez qualify in pole. He's been pretty quick this season. He's got a few poles. It didn't last long. We had a caution on lap 4 by your superstar, as always. Definitely making a splash here in the truck series. And I have a clip for you, and then we'll talk about it.
The 45 of Lawless Allen. He had a bit of a moment over at 1 and 2.
Speaking of which, 13, Haley Deegan. Jack Wood around the outside in the 51. He has contact. Caution is out. First time denied in lap 5.
Man, looked like Haley just got a little bit loose under Lawless Allen. Jack Wood with absolutely nowhere to go. Hopefully not too much damage to the front of that 51 truck.
I think it's pretty bad, Phil. There you see Lawless.
See, Jack's made his way to pit road, coming straight down pit road.
He did all he could do. Sometimes wrecks are unavoidable. He got on the brakes, and he was able to squeeze past Haley, and then just another truck jumped right up in his lap.
Quite a bit of damage to the back of that Ford truck of Haley Deegan's.
Well, Michael, you talked about how intense things are going to be here tonight. We're only 5 laps in.
Yeah.
This is the best time to go get you a position. Here's the replay of what happened.
She just got in and hit the apron. We saw that in qualifying. A couple of trucks did that. Wood was on his way to be clear, and then the 45 truck of Allen just right up the road in front of him. You can see right there, she hits the apron.
And her truck was loose even before she got up into the 45 of Lawless Allen. As you mentioned, Jack did a great job avoiding Haley, and then Lawless came up the racetrack right in his path.
You know who did a really good job here? Jake Drew in the 66, making his first ever start. And that bright green Ford for ThorSport dove to the inside, no contact. He was right there where all of that was happening.
Alrighty, so that was lap 4 of the race. Your superstar here, Haley Deegan, as always, just basically runs out of talent here. Lap 4 of this race, looked like she clipped the apron. Basically just lost talent. That's all there is to it. There's no reason at lap 4 of a race, especially starting that far back in the pack, as she always does. She always qualifies terrible, and then she puts herself in these situations where she just wrecks herself, basically, right there at lap 4, takes out Jack Wood, takes out Lawless Alley, just innocent bystanders to her absolute failure as being a race car driver. It seems like we keep talking about this all, time and time again. One thing I want to note, though, reading those comments of that video, or even the truck highlight video, all the comments were bagging Haley Deegan as well. They were going further than we go, because we base all our stuff off of stats, right? Me and Tom have told you this time and time and time again. We judge drivers based upon performance. We judge drivers based upon driving talent. We base drivers on their stats and their facts. Of visual performance, visual stats do not lie, basically, is where we're coming from. So it looks like the public opinion here is shifting. We still have a lot of people who are lost in the dark that aren't probably racing fans at all, and then they want to blame us for not being racing experts because we look at the facts and the stats. But that's a whole nother story. We can make a whole nother roast in the comment section again. Anyway, but first off, I want to talk about racing reference right here. So this is where we judge all drivers based upon racing reference, right? We did this earlier this year based upon, I think it was like 3 or 4 select starts that she had already made, plus the 2 full-time seasons she had done prior, plus the 1 part-time season before. So now we're going to look at her racing reference so far this season. Through 13 of 23 races, right? We're past the halfway point of the Truck Series season. She currently has 1 top 10 finish, which was at Texas, and I'm not going to take anything away from her. She didn't have a car to run there. She was in the mid-20s all day, but in racing, stats matter. She survived the carnage and got a 6th place finish. Congratulations. We've given her the props on this already on the channel. But she only has 2 laps led. And 2 of those laps led were at Darlington, where she stayed out on like 30, 40 lap old tires and then faded through the field instantly. It was just an absolute desperation move from her team because they've given up on her, right? Her team at ThorSport has completely given up on her. We've proved this in the past. We've seen it. You can see it on a weekly basis here with Haley Deegan. Her fan base has completely given up on her. Not her fan base, her team has completely given up on her. Her fan base obviously hasn't, because they're just out loud and proud, as always, trying to prove to everybody with no clear evidence or facts how good of a race car driver she is, right? Which we've said she's a good race car driver. Just because you're a bust in one league doesn't mean you're a bust for life in everything you drive, right? She could probably find a successful career in a different avenue. It just isn't working out here in NASCAR, and these stats prove it. 2 laps led on the season, right? That's not great. I mean, she hasn't led any laps prior to this season, so yes, she did get 2 laps led under yellow at Darlington. Congratulations there. Her average start is at par with her first season, right? Because we've noted that our first season was pretty decent in the trucks. For being a rookie year, no judgments or anything, because you get a free pass your rookie year, right? She had an 18 flat average starting position. This year, she's at an 18-1. So she's right on par with where she was a rookie year, but that shouldn't be happening because she's in her 3rd season. Do or die. And she is literally dying right now on the track as a race car driver. Her career is taking a complete drop-off. Average finish so far through 13 to 23 races. It's a 21-5. It's worse than her rookie year, which is just astounding in itself. How are you that much worse than your rookie year, especially in ThorSport Championship equipment? They've been in the championship for the last 2 seasons. Last year they had Majeski and Rhodes in the championship for. She has Rhodes' championship team from 2 years ago on her team, or running for that team. So there's just no excuses for this point to have a 21.5 average finish. Yes, she's a half a position higher than last season, but she's a whole position, half a position behind her rookie season. How do you digress this badly, especially with a new team that's probably better than where she was last year, in my opinion? And then she has 8 lead lap finishes out of 13 races, which is just bad. That's just terrible. That's just a little over half of the races she's ran, she's finished on the lead lap, right? That means that the other races she's getting lapped, which you shouldn't be in Truck Series, the fact that the stages are so short, the fact that you would get lapped. But most of her non-lead lap finishes are coming from DNFs. So, I mean, you just can't be tearing up cars in your 3rd season on a weekly basis anymore where you're at. And then when you are running out there, you're in the mid-20s. I mean, this is just sad. Being in a championship team, championship winning equipment, and you can't even get a top 5, top 10 on a consistent basis. It's just, her stats this year are just proving she's a bust. Obviously, she's probably going to move up to Xfinity because Ford's going to back her. Ford's giving her all the money. And you get these comments saying, oh, she just doesn't have the funding, doesn't have the backing. And she has tons of funding, tons of backing. To be able to compete in the Truck Series, yes, you do have to have talent. I've noted this in the past. Yes, she would run laps around me anywhere they went in the Truck Series. 100% without a doubt. But then number 2, when you're in this type of championship equipment, you have to start putting up the results. She hasn't put up the results. So I believe the public opinion, for the most part, has shifted away from believing that she has talent. But she's probably going to get an Xfinity ride. And we've already precursor throughout the first stage. We had a DNF by Allen there on lap 10 because of the damage that he had there. Lawless Allen with the damage there with Haley Deegan. We went on to see Zane Smith end up winning stage 1. So he looked like he was one of the more competitive trucks in this race. And then we had a caution on lap 93 with Daniel Dye spinning. He ended up collecting Holmes and Riggs. It was just kind of a bad deal there. For all those drivers involved. And then we saw Corey Heim win stage 2. He's just been on a tear this season. Unfortunately, didn't get the win, though, because with 10 to go, we saw a caution between Eckes and Friesen. They had a little bit of an incident there, which set up one of these late race restarts. And Carson Hocevar, who everybody's been bagging on the last few years, I'm a huge fan of Carson Hocevar. I think he's got a ton of talent. And I believe that just his performances alone, look what he's doing in the Xfinity Series. Jumps in for these select starts, and he's put in the top 10 just about every week. Runs that one cup race and with no expectations, right? First ever career start. He's got this thing in the top 16 before he loses the brakes and goes into the turn 1 wall. I mean, just this guy's got great talent, and I'm excited for his future. Gets his 2nd career truck race win, 2nd of the season, setting himself up in that championship favorite battle there with Corey Heim, Christian Eckes, Zane Smith. Obviously, can't count him out. Grant Enfinger's kind of surfaced to the top, so there's about 5 or 6 guys here competing for this championship, and it's going to get really exciting down the line. So congratulations to Carson Hocevar, getting his 2nd win of the season, 2nd career win. That was on Friday night. Saturday, we had the ARCA race, the Menard 250 at Elko Speedway. We saw William Swalich on pole. Didn't last long because Swalich and Jesse Love, who's been dominating ARCA this year, took the lead away from him. We saw them battle hard all day long. Just those 2 guys just head over heels better than the rest of the field. Battling all day long, back and forth. Then we saw late in this race, we saw Higurani, lap 150 of 250. He ends up turning Swalich, put Swalich in the back. So essentially, Swalich had to just drive his way back to the front. This opened the door for Jesse Love to win the race, basically, and that's what he did. Although we did see a caution with 51 laps to go when Frankie Muniz got turned into the wall. And it looked like a very violent, hard collision. Just a bad deal there for Frankie Muniz. He was running in the top 5 at this point of the race. Just super unfortunate. Jesse Love does end up getting the win. Just lighting the world on fire. This dude needs to be truck racing next year. He's just head over heels better than anybody else out there in the ARCA series right now. And beating people with similar equipment on a weekly basis. I mean, his teammates even. You see Dean Thompson, who I believe is showing a lot of potential recently. He goes and runs a race in the ARCA series with Venerini, can't compete. You got Higurani, like I mentioned. He's decent, but I mean, if you put him out in the field with Jesse Love, he's going to get ran over. I mean, just basically put into his place. And then you see Swalich over here in the GGR equipment was able to steal the win from Jesse Love last week. It's kind of a little bit of revenge there for Jesse Love. Him and Swalish put on a great battle. Those two guys in great equipment, very similar in speed. It was a great race to watch. But Jesse Love, 4th win of the season here in the Arkham Menard Series, definitely head over heels championship favorite without a doubt at this point of the season. Next, we will talk about the Xfinity race, the Tennessee Lottery 250 there at Nashville. We saw Cole Custer on pole. And then we saw cautions in the first stage. We had cautions with Allgaier, Sieg, and several others early in this race. We saw a hill spin from right in the front there and end up having some incident there. We saw Ellis and Chad Chastain have an incident. Just basically the first stage was just wreck after wreck pretty much is what it felt like. But we ended up seeing Ty Gibbs win stage 1. Then we saw Austin Hill, after that spin, he ended up getting new tires, ends up kind of playing a strategy game at the beginning of the stage, 2, staying out on those old tires, and he ends up getting into Gibbs and kind of basically took Gibbs out of the race, got into Hocevar as well, who was running really well at the time as well. Took them both pretty much out of contention to win this race. And then we saw more cautions like stage 1 kind of. We saw Connor Mosak wreck, we saw Sammy Smith, Sheldon Creed, Brandon Jones, they had a little bit of a crash as well. And Chandler Smith ends up winning stage 2, which it looked like at this point it was going to be a colleague car to win, which it was. We saw Allmendinger take the lead there with 12 to go over Parker Kligerman. Parker Kligerman was on a little bit different strategy. And then we saw caution late. There was 6 to go with Chad Chastain spinning again. And overtime 1, Chandler Smith ends up spinning. So then we got to stack them up, run it again, overtime number 2, and Allmendinger end up hanging on to win his 17th career race in the Xfinity Series. An amazing job by him. I didn't have him picked. I knew he was in the race, all-star car for colleague, but for him to go out and win the race in kind of dominating fashion there at the end was just pretty impressive to me. Me personally, I've talked to Tom a lot about this off camera. Allmendinger should have never went back cup racing. He should have just stayed in the Xfinity Series, kind of pulled a Justin Allgaier and kind of just been like the veteran of that series, where these guys below him have to try and figure out how to beat him because he's got all this great experience, veteran race car driver, lots of talent, and make the Xfinity Series a lot harder to win. Make these guys really prove that they can beat these guys like Justin Allgaier and AJ Allmendinger on a weekly basis that have all this talent. So Xfinity Series overall, though, in general, always puts on great shows. I keep saying it all over and over and over again. It's the best series in all of racing right now. And it proves it week in, week out. And the talent in this series is just immense. And it's really just kind of above really any other NASCAR series out there right now, especially a lot of other racing series like we see with Formula One, IndyCar. I mean, none of those can even hold a candle to the Xfinity Series this season. And the cars are just awesome. If the Cup Series could adopt something similar to this Xfinity car, the product in the Cup Series would be so much better as well. So that pretty much summarized the Xfinity race. Congratulations again, AJ Allmendinger's 17th career win here in the Xfinity Series there for colleague, this time in the All-Star car. All right, I just want to touch on the Pilot Challenge Series at Watkins Glen, the Watkins Glen International 120. And it was a pretty entertaining race for the most part. We saw a little bit of strategy played in, but your winner in the GS division was Foley and Barletta in the number 96 Turner BMW. And then in the TCR, we saw Lewis and Block in the number 1 KMW Alfa Romeo win in TCR. So those are pretty much the best cars in each series throughout the day, and each driver put on a great stint and ran fantastic. So good stuff for them. Next, I want to talk about the 6 Hours of Glen, right? This race was awesome. I missed the first couple hours, unfortunately, wasn't able to catch those. But I was able to tune in for about hour 4 on back, or 4 hours to go to the finish. It was super entertaining race. We saw the Penske Porsche number 6 start on pole. Me and Tom both last week, if you're watching the podcast, we both picked the number 10 Acura there of Wayne Taylor Racing to win the race. We just had a feeling this was Acura's time to shine. Fortunately, we didn't see that. We didn't see that at all. They just didn't have the pace. The Penske Porsche number 6 was on pole. Lap 1, turn 1, we saw the BMW. My dark horse pick ends up into the wall lap 1, turn 1. So just really threw me for a loop there with my dark horse pick. And the reason I picked him as my dark horse to begin with was because we've seen Acura, we've seen Cadillac, and we've seen Porsche all win so far in the WeatherTech series. I felt like it was a chance for BMW to finally get a win. So all 4 manufacturers in this LMDH class, or I guess the GTP class here at the IMSA WeatherTech Series, would all get a win this season. And my dark horse was the BMW because I just had a feeling maybe we'd see it, and they end up wrecking their turn 1, lap 1, really put them behind. We had several incidents actually in LMP3. Lots of LMP3 cars all over the place. LMP3, exciting racing, but just quote unquote idiots behind the wheel. And I'll show you this clip here from this race. This is gonna nominate this man here as a bonehead move of the week here, and we'll let it play, and you guys can get your opinion here as well.
He is moving in the car, so it was the 2 Lamborghinis I think that got together.
No.
Oh, mistake then by what was the 8th place machine in. So that was the Performance Tech car then?
I think it might be.
Alex Kirby? I just saw the red and white.
He just nailed it way too deep, got into the back of the 2 Lamborghinis together. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's number 38 car, isn't it?
Yeah, Performance Tech, the red, white and black car. And the 2 Lamborghinis battling for the inside line into turn 6. That's fine, but Kirby comes in too hot and manages to get both of the Lamborghinis. Well, we've got a bridge here, walk over bridge, which is Go Bowling, and he's got the spare there.
Alrighty, so that is the clip there from the LMP3 car there by Kirby. I mean, the LMP3 class is just hilarious. There was one of the drivers that was interviewed from one of the Lamborghini teams later in the race, and he was like, yeah, these LMP3 guys are just idiots. They shouldn't even be behind the wheel. These guys are just beyond their own driving talent, ability, and I mean, he didn't even make that corner. He drove right through both those Lambos. Like, they were just, I don't even know. Like, the whole point of these GTD cars or GT3 cars in these against prototypes in these endurance races is to be basically moving chicanes. You're not supposed to move or run into the moving chicane. You're supposed to avoid the moving chicane. He just drove through them both. I mean, and it's just hilarious because the reaction from the guy that one of the drivers of the Lamborghini there was just, they were on pace to have a great run. They probably would have been on podium, potentially up there for the win there in GTD Pro, and then they both get taken out just in one incident, and it was it's just funny to get the driver's reaction to how dumb these GT3 guys or these LMP3 guys are. So it'll be interesting now that they're moving away from the WeatherTech series and moving over to the Michelin Pilot series next year. So we'll put them more of in a sprint race type deal, and we're probably going to see a lot of carnage next year. It's going to be exciting. So tune into the IMSA stuff next year. It's going to be wild with LMP3 moving down. I just want to talk a little bit more about the race here. So we saw Bourdais obviously got the 01 Cadillac was involved in that accident as well. They were also involved in a wreck earlier in the race with Bourdais. I mean, this 01 Cadillac team for Ganassi is just having the worst season imaginable. They got that win a few weeks ago, but ever since then, ever since before that and since then, I mean, they've just had terrible luck. They ran decent at the 24-hour of Le Mans, but I mean, it just seems like week after week, they're just somehow finding a way to wreck, whether it's turn one, whether it's a strategy gone awry and then they end up wrecking afterward, or, I mean, even at Spa with Bourdais going into the wall there up the S's. I mean, there's just crazy stuff coming out of this Ganassi team, and maybe they could turn it around. I don't know. There's still a few races left in the season. We'll see what they can do, but it just seems like everything just falling apart for this Cadillac team for Ganassi this season. And then I want to mention again the LMP3. We saw an amazing battle here between Fraga and Grist at the end there for the victory of the LMP3 class. I mean, these guys were darting and passing, and we even saw them making a pass on the 01 Cadillac there late in this race. I mean, an LMP3 passing a GTP, it was wild. It was like I think it was Bourdais was in the car at the time, and he looks over and he's getting passed by an LMP3 car. These guys were getting it. Fraga did end up winning this battle here with Grist, but it was an amazing battle. And we also saw a great battle there at the end between Garcia in GTD Pro, between Garcia in the Cadillac as well as Hawksworth there in the Lexus. And you know how good that Lexus team has been this year, pretty much winning almost every single race between Hawksworth and Barnico. They've just been dominant in that Lexus in the GTD Pro class. And then Garcia, he's a veteran of the GTD Pro class. He's running for Cadillac, obviously, and they were trying so hard to get this win, and he just couldn't hold off Hawksworth. Lexus was just too fast. And then the controversy comes here with the end of the race for the GTP, right? We saw BMW, my dark horse, they are in the Brecken Lab 1. The team car there with De Filippi and Yellowly, they ended up playing a bold strategy, got the lead, and they had like a 10, 11 second lead there at the end of the race. And unfortunately, that was with about 45 minutes to 50 minutes to go in the race. So I knew it was a ticking time bomb, right? I just knew the Porsche was going to get there. They were just so fast through the corners. They didn't necessarily have the straight line speed that a lot of these other GTP cars had, but through the corners, these guys could just fly around these corners. It was insane. And we saw the number 6 car there, the Penske Porsche, driven by Tandy there at the end. He was just running him down, little bit by little bit. And eventually, with 5 minutes to go, got by the BMW. BMW was having trouble with traffic. And I was just devastated for BMW. I wanted them to win so bad. And Porsche ends up taking the win. Hold up, though. Post-race inspection, the Penske Porsche actually got disqualified for their victory with having their skid blocks being too thin, which I don't know a ton about these GTP or LMDH or LMH chassis. They're just, I'm not versed in them enough. Me and Tom talked about it a little bit off stream yesterday about this whole ruling, but we were talking that maybe they had them narrower so they could have lower ride heights. But then again, it's a double-edged sword because it would create more drag, which could be the reason why they were so much slower on the straightaways. They had just so much drag built in the car for all that cornering speed with all that extra downforce. Who knows? But they were too narrow or too thin, and essentially got disqualified. And it hands the race over to the BMW. And I want to shout out Connor De Filippi here. He ran an exceptional race. I mean, he comes out that's the alternate strategy. They leap the best cars, which were the Wheeling Cadillac and the Penske Porsches. They had been battling most of the day. And he just put on a couple back-to-back stints of his life. Just absolutely going to work with the undercut there. Got such a big lead, and he just could not hang on to it late there. The Penske Porsche was just on rails and just gaining time and time and time again. And I was going to nominate him as driver of the week anyway for being P2 with the drive that he had. But now that they are the winners, I mean, that just adds an extra incentive to put him as driver of the week. So I would love to see what you guys vote for the driver of the week. But that's one of the nominees for sure. And then we saw in LMP2, we saw the CrowdStrike car, the 04. They've won most of the races in LMP2 this year with Hanley, Kurtz, and Nolan Siegel. Indiana XT driver was piloting that machine as well. Did a fantastic job. They end up winning LMP2. And then we saw the number 74 Riley Motorsports car, like I mentioned, with Fraga, with Burden, and Robinson end up winning LMP3. And then we saw Lexus sweep GTD and GTD Pro with the 12 and the 14 respectively. So great job for Lexus. I think this was a pretty marquee event for them. They took some pictures of Victory Lane with both the cars lined up together. Super cool pick. Lexus has been working very hard in the GTD Pro categories, so them to get the sweep there is pretty dang cool. All right, well, that pretty much summarizes the IMSA race here. We'll talk a little bit more about them here in a minute, like I mentioned with the driver of the week, and then potentially tonight we're talking about the watch party of the July month. So stay tuned for that here at the end of this podcast, and then we'll put the poll up here at the end of this podcast for you guys to vote on and see what race you guys want to watch with us. We'll get the boys together and we'll do it again. We had a great time at the last one in Sonoma that you guys voted for, so we'll run it back. All right, next is the Ally 400 at Nashville, the Cup Series. We saw Chastain qualify on pole, his first career pole, by the way. Great job by him there. Then we saw Tyler Reddick kind of take the lead there, lap 61 of the race, and he ended up going on to win stage 1. Truex ended up inheriting the lead on a restart there for stage 2 and led for quite a while. Caution on lap 139, though. Reddick has a loose wheel coming to pit road. I mean, we've talked about this time and time again here with these loose wheels here in NASCAR. Tom went in depth with it on a video in the past, talking about what they did in IndyCar with these single lug wheels. And we talked about maybe being the tire or the weight of this Cup car and these lugs not being able to stay tight on these wheels. This needs to stop. I mean, this is going to get to a point where somebody's going to get seriously, seriously injured. I don't know if NASCAR just needs to redesign or construct the way that these wheels are mounted. I don't know if they need to look into the way these lugs are getting attached to the wheels, but it seems like a weekly thing now. We're seeing a wheel come off. It literally is a weekly thing now, and this cannot continue to be a thing. Someone is going to get seriously injured. One of these tires is going to end up in the crowd one of these days. It's going to end up hurting somebody. And penalizing these teams is just too severe because it's a design flaw why these wheels aren't getting tightened. It's not a user error, in my opinion, anymore. If it was, it just wouldn't be happening this often. It would be able to correct it via user using the gun or vice versa with the with it being a design flaw with the next gen car. That's when you would see it happening all the time. So they need to reevaluate what's going on with these loose wheels. They need to fix it because, like I said, it's going to go in a crowd one of these times. One of these wheels might go roll up and go through a windshield of one of these other cars. It could go hurt somebody on pit road. It could cause a car to go airborne. Like, we've got to fix this loose wheel debacle. This is becoming an absolute problem, and it only happens in NASCAR. We do not see it in IMSA. We do not see it in IndyCar. We do not see it in Formula One. It's a NASCAR problem, and it needs to be addressed right away, whether it's a design flaw, which, again, it probably is because these next-gen cars are absolute garbage. We've talked about it time and time again, and it just doesn't create good racing either. They're not safe for the drivers. That's Tom's main beef with it. That's pretty much my main beef with it. And then with these loose wheels, that's going to be another problem for driver safety, fan safety, team safety. It's just something that needs to be addressed. All right, so after this, we had a restart on lap 149. And we saw Hamlin, on this restart, we saw Blaney and Kyle Busch wreck. We also saw Bowman get into Kyle Busch, but we saw Blaney take a wild ride, locked up the brakes, did a terrible job trying to save this car. He thought by locking up the brakes that he could end up correcting it back to the right, which I don't understand how that was even a thought in his mind. He should have just kept wheeling it and kept his foot off the brake. He would have been fine, but he just locked up the brakes, and once the brakes were locked up, he just slid right into the wall. One of the hardest hits I've seen in a while. Non-safe for barrier wall there going into turn one. So, yeah, just a really not so aware situation there by Blaney. That's going to nominate him as a bonehead move of the week because as a driver, you got to keep trying to drive the car, and it looked like he had given up, locked up the brakes, and it just ultimately ended in a DNF for him, destroyed his race car. And he was towards the top of the points standings coming in, so that really hurt him there. Then we got Hamlin kind of surfaces to the lead there. Lap 157 gets by Truex. He ends up winning stage 2. Unfortunately, though, it became a race between Chastain and Truex. Chastain ended up getting the lead there at lap 231. Hangs on to win. The Watermelon Man finally gets a victory here. After all of the drama, they pull the reins on him a little bit, and he just goes out and runs one of the cleanest races, one of the most, veteran-type races, right? Staying consistent all night, making the right adjustments with his crew chief there, ends up getting the lead back from Truex late, and Hamlin, and ends up winning the race, third career win, and really vaults him up in the playoffs a little bit higher, right? Because he's got all those stage wins, and now he's got a race win, so big moment there for Chastain. I guess that pretty much summarizes the Cup Series right there. I picked Alex Bowman going in. Tom, I believe, picked Larson going in. But the Hendrick cars just were not fast in this race really at all. We saw flashes of them in the mid or top 5 to back half of the top or early or front or of the single digits, like in the 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th place. So that's about all they really had. It was really just the two Toyotas with Reddick. If Reddick didn't have that loose wheel, I believe he would have been still a factor. And then Chastain, obviously, was really quick. All right, so this leads me to the Driver of the Week segment here. We're going to talk about that. So in the Truck Series, I want to give a shout out to Bailey Curry getting P5 in the trucks. He ran a phenomenal race. He qualified up front, kept it up front all day, and gets a top 5. I mean, somebody running for Nice Motorsports there in that 41 car or 41 truck, and really not the same equipment as a lot of the guys around it, but he qualified up front, took care of his stuff, maintained the track position, played the strategy well, got a P5. Congratulations, Bailey Kerr. That was an awesome job. Also, like I mentioned, Connor DeFilippi there in the BMW number 25 car. They end up winning the race due to penalty by the Porsche Penske there. Just awesome job. Like I mentioned, he just put on 2 stints there at the end of this race that were just bar none. Some of the best driving I've ever seen. And just came a little short there at the end, about 5 minutes ago when he got passed. But fortunate for him, the racing gods were on his side and rewarded him for that great race and got him the win with the penalty there by the Porsche. And also I want to shout out Eric Jones getting P8 in the Cup race. We haven't seen Eric Jones run good at all this year. My expectations of him and that team were way higher this year, especially with Jimmy Johnson coming on board and how well they ran at the end of the last season. And this season just been kind of a throwaway season for that team. This is a season they want to forget, have no pace, no speed. They're not going to make the playoffs. Not a chance unless Eric Jones or Noah Gragson can pull a rabbit out of the hat. But to get a P8 here and have the speed all day to consistently move forward through the field just shows how great of a race car driver Eric Jones is, and it shows that they're maybe making some improvements here. So that was a big move there for Legacy Motor Club and Eric Jones getting P8 in the Cup. So those are your 3 nominees for Driver of the Week. I will put that poll up at the end of the stream for you guys to vote on. So I'd really like to see your guys' feedback on that. All right, now Bonehead of the Week segment. This week we have 3 nominees. We got Haley Deegan running out of talent in the Truck Series race. I've talked about it. I keep hammering that nail home. Just absolutely runs out of talent. Lap 4 of the truck race. So she's nominated as a Bonehead Move of the Week. And then I showed you the clip there of Alex Kirby in the LMP3 car just bulldozing his way through the 2 Lamborghinis there at Watkins Glen and just destroyed his race. He destroyed both Lamborghinis' race. So just an LMP3 driver doing LMP3 things. It was funny. I'm still laughing about it. I've seen that clip over and over and over, and I just still can't believe what was going on in that guy's mind. And then the last one here is Ryan Blaney with that terrible save. I mean, that's a spin that he should have been able to come out of. I don't know what happened if he lost track of where he was with the spin. Just basically put it in the wall, and I think that he could have saved that car. I don't understand what was going on there. I really don't. And I don't think he knows what was going on there. So I think we'll just nominate him as the Bonehead Move of the Week. Now I'm going to talk about the point standings, right? Cup Series. Truex is still your points leader at 576. Byron is 18 points back, and as well as Chastain tied there for second, 18 points back. So again, we keep talking about it. This regular season battle for this championship in the regular season of the Cup Series is just tightening up. There's so many drivers so close that any of them could win a race and they could just vault themselves right up to the points lead. So just staying up there and consistent, trying to get the best finish you can. And at the end of the year, that regular season points championship is going to reward you some points for the playoffs. Very big to win that regular season championship. So it just keeps getting closer and closer. And then the cut line, we have Daniel Suarez and Alex Bowman again, but they swapped. So Bowman came in 3 points ahead of Suarez. Now Suarez is 2 points ahead of Bowman leaving here. So Suarez is 16th at 353 plus 2 over Bowman, who's in 17th at 351. So that cut line's tightening up. And then if we have somebody below that cut line win, it's going to move those guys, that cut line down again. So they're both in pretty much must-win situations, I would feel at this point. I would not feel safe being that close to the cut line with, 9 races to go before the playoffs. So there's got to be some give there, or some desperation out of those guys to try and find a win here soon. And then I want to talk about the IMSA points, right? Before the penalty, it looked like Tandy and Jaminet were going to maintain the points lead here in that Porsche. But with their problems, it moves Sims and Durrani to the points lead here in that number 31 Action Express Wheeling Cadillac with 1602. But 64 points back, the BMW. Oh my goodness. They are second in points with DeFilippi and Yellowly. They're 64 points back from the Wheeling Cadillac Express team with this dub here at Watkins Glen. And then Jaminet and Tandy are moved down to third in points, 75 points back from the Action Express Wheeling Cadillac. So the IMSA World Sports Car Championship there in the GT2 class is heating up. It's really anybody's game at this point, just depend, because the diversity we've seen, or the adversity we've seen in this series with all the wrecks, nobody could put together 2 great races in a row. whether it's penalties, whether it's crashes, it doesn't matter. They just can't do it. I mean, we've seen all 4 manufacturers win in the first 6 races. Just incredible. So we'll have to keep our tabs on that as we get down to the rest of the season. All right, next I'm going to preview the races this weekend. We've got the ARCA West at Irwindale, which is one of my favorite tracks. It's one of my bucket list tracks I want to go visit and race at before my driving days are behind me. And then we have Indy and Indy NXT at Mid-Ohio, which is one of my favorite road courses to see. It's one of the best sports car races. NASCAR Xfinity Series and Truck Series, when they used to run there, used to always put on good shows. So Indy NXT there this weekend. And then we have the Xfinity and Cup there at the Chicago Street Course. Super excited about this because it's different, right? It's a street course. I'm not a huge fan of the idea of going there at all, especially in a street course for NASCAR, but I'm excited for the fact that it is something different, right? So I'm trying to be optimistic and be excited for it being something different, whether it's something that I don't agree with or really care that they're doing in the first place, especially because we've talked about in the past, Chicagoland's such a great track. It's just right up the way there, maybe an hour away. So why not just continue going there? One of the better tracks in the circuit, but I'm going to stay optimistic. I'm going to say I'm excited because it's something different, right? Street course. And then we have Formula 1, Formula 2 there in Australia, or in Austria, actually, the Austrian Grand Prix. And then we also have the GT3 cars doing the 24 hours of Spa. We saw them do the 24 hours of Nürburgring a few weeks back. And now they're doing the 24 hours of Spa. So that'll be super exciting there as well. If you love the endurance type long distance races, those are always fun to watch, right? Alrighty, so notable entries this weekend in the Xfinity Series. We have Justin Marks, owner of Trackhouse, is going to be making a start in the 10 car, the All-Star car for Colleague at the Chicago Street Course. That's super exciting there. Connor Mosak is going to be driving the number 19 car for Joe Gibbs Racing, as well as Miguel Paludo in the number 88 Junior Motorsports entry there at Chicago Street Course. So I'm super excited about all of those opportunities for those guys. And then for the Cup Series, we have Jenson Button. We know the story of Jenson Button, Formula One world champion, already ran a race this season at COTA. He's going to be running this weekend at Chicago Street Course for Rick Ware, as well as Andy Lally, who's been running select starts this season in IMSA. He's going to be running at the Chicago Street Course this weekend for Rick Ware Racing in the number 51 car. And then Shane Van Gisbergen will be driving the number 91 for Trackhouse Project 91, V8 Supercar champion. Super exciting to see somebody else making a start in the Cup Series with a different background of racing. And it's going to be the Chicago Street Course. So that's pretty exciting for him. All right, next I'm going to go over my race predictions for this weekend. The Xfinity Series, the Loop 121 there at Chicago Street Course. My favorite this weekend, I am taking Parker Kligerman. I have a feeling he is going to win this race. I don't know why. I just feel like it's a road course. Parker Kligerman's so good on road courses, and he is due, right? Me and Tom keep picking him week after week, whether it's our favorite or our dark horse. And I believe this weekend is the weekend that he gets it done. I believe he will win the race. My dark horse, I'm going to take Connor Mosak, running in that 19 car for Joe Gibbs Racing. He's better equipment than he's had. I believe he has a little bit of background in road racing, so I believe that this weekend would be a great weekend to take him as a dark horse. And what to expect, I have no idea what to expect with the Chicago Street Course. Absolutely no idea what's going to happen on a street course in NASCAR. I'm here to view it with you guys here for the first time as well, so it'll be very interesting to see what happens. I don't even know. It's going to be wild. All right, the Formula One race, the Austrian Grand Prix on Sunday. My favorite, without a doubt, I am taking Verstappen. I mean, if you have to be ridiculous not to take Verstappen at this point, just the most absolute dominant driver there is right now in Formula One, the most dominant car, most dominant team. There's just nothing going to stop him. My dark horse this weekend, I'm going to take Magnussen. I believe Magnussen is going to get points this weekend. And that's kind of what the dark horse is in Formula One. You're not obviously taking a dark horse that you think can potentially steal a win, but you're taking a dark horse that you think can get points, maybe a potential podium. I don't think Magnussen's going to get a podium, but I believe Haas this weekend is going to come out with a redemption story here, just an absolute drive, and I believe that Magnussen's going to get points this weekend. I think it'd be really cool to see. Alrighty, for the Indy NXT. The Firestone Grand Prix at Mid-Ohio, I'm taking Nolan Siegel to win again. I believe he goes 3 in a row. This dude is on a roll. He's your points leader. especially with the problems that Rasmussen had there at the last race at Road America. I believe this weekend, Nolan Siegel gets it done again. Goes 3 in a row in the Indy NXT. We saw him get the dub there in LMP3 there, LMP3 there at Watkins Glen. He's on just a roll right now, just winning anything and everything under the sun. I believe he wins again this weekend. My dark horse, though, I'm going to take Reese Gould because he won there the first race there at Detroit a couple weeks ago. And then last weekend or 2 weekends ago there at Road America, he was leading that race late. Nolan Siegel ended up stealing it from him. But I believe that if anybody's a dark horse, this guy just seems to find his way up to the front of these races. So I'm taking him as my dark horse. And then for the IndyCar, Honda Indy 200 at Mid-Ohio. Just like I said with Formula One, you can't just not take this guy. I'm taking Alex Blow. Alex Blow wins this race, and I believe he does it in a pretty dominant fashion. And I mean, their best strategy, best strategist, best car, best team, best crew, best driver right now. There's nothing stopping this team from performing at the absolute peak of everybody right now, and I just believe they're going to keep that momentum rolling. I think he's won like 3 of the last 4 or 4 of the last 5 races there in IndyCar. He's just dominant, and should have had the Indy 500 as well if he wasn't racing against some other quote-unquote drivers that kind of ran out of talent around him. So definitely take a blow this weekend. My dark horse, I'm going to go right out of the book that Tom keeps running here. I'm going to straight up take Romain Grosjean. I know it's probably a bad choice because obviously he's probably going to have more problems. Him, Sheldon Creed, those 2 guys can't buy a break this season, and I believe that I'm just going to take Grosjean because if I take him and not Tom this week because he's not here, maybe it'll turn around. Maybe I'll be his good luck charm this week. So I'm going to take Grosjean as my dark horse. All right, now for the Cup Series, the Grant Park 220 there at Chicago Street Course. My favorite for this weekend, I am taking Truex. I believe he wins another road course race. We saw how good and dominant he was there at Sonoma. I believe he just follows it up, gets another dub here in the Grant Park 220. And my dark horse, I'm taking him again. I mean, the Michael McDowell in that 34 car, I believe, of Front Row Motorsports. They have been on such a roll recently. They were a little absent there at Nashville, which is pretty much expected. You don't expect them to run good, right? So I didn't really expect much, and they didn't show much. So that's okay there. But on road courses, this man's unstoppable, and I just have a feeling one of these weeks, Michael McDowell is just going to end up in victory lane. It might not be this year. It might be next year. Who knows? He is just you can't run this good this many times in a row or this many times in a season and just not find victory lane at least once. So I am taking Michael McDowell to be my dark horse here in the Cup race. All right, next I'm going to go over the fantasy. Tom's fantasy, unfortunately, isn't going to be active this week, so I'll just do my fantasy. You get a 5-driver lineup. My 5-driver lineup, I've got AJ Allmendinger. Haven't used him a whole lot this season. Taking Chris Buescher because he's on, again, just like Michael McDowell, has been on a tear as of late. And this is a road course. He's got a ton of talent on road courses. I believe he'll be a factor in this race. Obviously, taking Truex. He's my favorite. I believe he's going to win the race hands down. So I'm taking him. And then I'm also going to take Michael McDowell because he's my dark horse. And I believe he's going to be just like Buescher. He's going to be there around the end of this race. And then I'm going to take Suarez. And the only reason I'm taking Suarez is because I just have a feeling everybody else is giving up on him. His team is on a high with Ross Chastain right now. And I just have a feeling one of these races he's going to sneak up here and do a good job and get a good top 5 finish. So I'm taking Suarez. Now for the matchups, we have Chastain versus Cindric. Obviously, I'm taking Chastain up in the points. Cindric has just been invisible the last 2 years. I mean, besides the Daytona 500 win, he has done nothing in that 2 car. So that's an easy pick for me, Chastain over Cindric. Then you got Allmendinger over Suarez, or Allmendinger and Suarez. This one was a tough one for me. I took Allmendinger over Suarez, and I contemplated back and forth, but I just believe this weekend Allmendinger, just have a feeling he's going to do good. And I also have a feeling Suarez is going to do good too, but when it comes down to the end of it, I feel like that you're splitting hairs. Both going to be in the top 10 at the end of it, in my opinion, my thoughts. So I just think Allmendinger is going to beat him by a position, maybe 2 at the end. And then we have Reddick and Elliott. I am taking Reddick. I didn't put him on my fantasy because I'm trying to save him for the end of the season here. And I believe that Reddick is just going to be Elliott. Elliott is just as tragic this season as his fan base. So I am taking Reddick over Chase Elliott. And then when it comes to the last matchup here, we have Truex over Larson. This is another tough one, but I'm obviously going with Truex. I think he's going to win the race. I think he's going to win the race in pretty dominant fashion. And I just don't know what to think about Larson. He just is on fire some weeks, and then he has some bad weeks, and then he's just mediocre other weeks. But if anybody's to dethrone Truex this weekend, my pick would be Larson would be the guy that could beat him in a head-to-head matchup here. But again, Truex is my pick to win, taking Truex to win the race, and that will do that for fantasy. Next is our final segment, which is the radioactive of the week. I love this segment. Tom loves this segment. We haven't got much traction at it, but if whoever can guess the quote that I'm about to say in the poll after the podcast is going to get a shout out in the next podcast. So make sure you're one of those people. You can get a good shout out, maybe shout out your Twitter handle, whatever it may be. Would love to see you guys guess. So the driver that said this quote, if you guys can guess it, the quote is, "I should just ship this blank." If you can guess what driver said that quote, you will get a shout out in the next episode. Alrighty, well that summarizes the entire episode 22 here. I just want to talk about a few things here before I go on out of here for the night. First off is this weekend we had the Nexus 499. Just a fantastic race from start to finish. Everything as advertised, right? We built this up for a few months. We said it was going to be some wrecks. We said there were going to be 3 wide battles for the lead. Fantastic finish. We said that these were the best iRacers in the business. They're going to lay it all on the line for the hardware. And they did. They did a fantastic job. It was just from start to finish, the adversity that was thrown into this race, just the amazing battles throughout. I've got the highlight video up on the channel now, so go check out the highlight video. It's about 34 minutes long. Pretty much summarizes the race perfectly from what happened from the beginning to the end. Shows a lot of the major wrecks, a lot of the major battles and lead changes that happened throughout the event. We also had the full 6-hour stream, full pre-race show, full after or post-race show, tons of interviews with a lot of the different drivers in the event, and then the full broadcast. Obviously, it's just super entertaining. You got to check it out. And I want to congratulate Mike Garaguzzo. He's going to get his name added to the trophy that I've showed on the podcast for the last few weeks. I've sent it off to the engraving or to the trophy company. They're getting it engraved now. And then I'm going to be sending it off to him. And he's going to be the ambassador of this race for the next month or for the next calendar year until we run it again. So big moment for him. And he'll have his name etched on there forever. So that's super awesome. Can't wait for next year. I'm already stoked. I'm ready to start pumping out more promos and promotionals for next year. For the 2024 iteration of the Nexus 499. And then another thing I want to talk about here is this behind me. I just picked up the Lego Peugeot 9X8 that they ran this year at the 24-hour Le Mans LMH car. Huge fan of this car. This is one of my favorite hypercars currently out there, the hybrid style era of prototype racing. This is an LMH car, which is my favorite of the World Endurance Championship. It's the French model car. The team car of this was actually leading 24-hour Le Mans a few weeks ago and wrecked from the lead, unfortunately. But this is one of my favorite looking cars. They don't have a rear wing like a lot of the other ones. It's kind of buried in the back end of the chassis there. So I'm excited to build this. It's probably going to take me a couple months to build this thing because of how busy I am. But maybe I could do a stream one of these nights this week if I have an extra hour or so. I'll maybe open it up, put a little bit of it together, talk to you guys in the chat about racing, whatever you guys want to do. Should be fun, but I'm super excited about this. Tom has one as well, so I had to go and get one as well because I just love this car. My favorite one is the BMW. Unfortunately, they don't make a BMW one, so I'll wait for this is my second favorite one. So I was like, it's a no-brainer. I've got to build it. Be a cool backdrop for me when I get into a permanent studio here. So super excited about that. Maybe I could build it sometime this week during stream. Maybe do an hour, talk about racing while I build it. And then also, I want to mention next the poll for the watch party this month. I've narrowed it down to 4 races that are interesting to me and Tom, and they're all on a Sunday. So the first race that will be added to this poll, I'll put this poll out after the stream so you guys can vote on it, which race you want to watch with us. We did this last month with the Cup Series at Sonoma. That was the one that won. We really enjoyed it. We want to do it again. We want to make this a monthly thing. So this month, we voted for the IMSA race, the Chevy Grand Prix over at Canadian Tire Motorsports Park. Me and Tom are huge sports car fans, obviously. Like this is kind of our cup of tea right now. We're just super into the sports car racing, the endurance racing, the hypercar era is just super entertaining. And watching the LMP2s, LMP3 battles this year have been fun. Same with the GTD Pro, GTD classes this year, just been super fun. So I would definitely like to watch that race with you guys. That's kind of my personal favorite on this list. But also we have the IndyCar race, the Grand Prix of Toronto on July 16th. Or like we really love IndyCar racing too, so I mean that would be a fun one to watch with us. So we have a lot of opinions there at the IndyCar series stuff. It's fun to watch. And then I also picked the Pocono 400 there on July 23rd. Me and Tom are huge strategy racing fans. This is why I love racing. I love the strategy aspect. I believe this is why Tom is a huge fan of racing as well. The strategy aspect in racing is just amazing to me. We called the Motor City Cup race last night for the Nexus Sim Racing League, and it was just a fantastic strategy race. We saw, I believe the top three were three different strategies. We also had a fourth strategy thrown in there with Matt Yost, one of the drivers in the league there. He went with a one-stopper. It was crazy the amount of driver skill and talent that he has. We asked him about it afterward, and he said he was thinking about bailing on it, but he stuck true to it because he turned it into like a mission to finish the race on the one-stopper. And then we saw the winning strategy being a two-stopper. We saw Haldane in the 39 car run a three-stopper. We saw Collier also running a two-stopper. So it's just different strategies, different pit sequences. So that's why we kind of want to do the Pocono race, right? I mean, there is stage racing, unfortunately, kind of ruins it a little bit, but there's still going to be some type of strategy involved in this race. That'd be a fun one to watch with us. And then we also picked the Belgian Grand Prix there for Formula One on July 30th. And I am a huge fan of Spa, one of my favorite tracks in the entire world. I just love Spa. It's just an awesome track when they're going up the hill through the S's. It's just so much fun. I love Spa. I just love Spa. It's one of my favorite tracks in the world. It's just so fun. So I picked that one for that specific reason. So maybe we'll watch that one with you. That would be fun too. That'll be an early start. So if you do vote on that, be prepared to get up early with us and check it out. So I'll put that poll up after the podcast. You guys can vote. I would like to see the poll will end probably next Tuesday after the podcast is over next Tuesday, and we'll close that poll out. And whatever one has the most votes at that time will be the one that we pick, and we'll watch together. So that'll be fun. And then also an update on the channel. It's the end of the month. We put out a crash compilation video for May. Worked on it throughout the month of May. Put it out. It's got a ton of views. I think it's up to like 54,000 views. You guys seem to love that content. We've gained so many subs off of that content. Well, June's almost over. So this Friday, Saturday, somewhere in that range, I'm going to be posting the June crash compilation. It's probably close to an hour long. And I've been working on it all month. Got just tons of crashes. Everything from NASCAR to IndyCar to Formula 1, Formula 2. I have all different types of sports car races from the World Endurance Championship there, even the 24-hour Le Mans, the IMSA series. We got GT3 crashes. We got Formula 4 crashes. We got dirt racing, wing sprint cars, dirt modifieds. We got short track racing with asphalt late models. A few other things mixed in here with some rallycross crashes. I mean, I've just got, and I even have some drag racing crash in there as well. So stay tuned for that. That's coming out this end of this week, and can't wait for you guys to see that and enjoy that with me and enjoy that in general. I mean, you guys seem to love that kind of content, and it's going to keep coming out monthly. So put a lot of work into it. I'm excited to show it with you guys. And then I guess that pretty much summarizes the episode. Really, thank you guys again for coming in here and watching this stream, enjoying this with me. Hopefully I did a great job, didn't bore you guys to death. We didn't have Tom in here to kind of bounce some stuff off of, but we'll be back every Tuesday. This is our thing, the Full Send Half Mast podcast. Tried to bring the everybody around to enjoy motorsports as much as we do. I know Tom would say the same thing as me. We're just huge racing fans, and we just love this stuff to death. This is our life. This is what we like to do. This is our passion, and we just want to share it with everybody out in the world. We cannot thank everybody that is subscribed, liked, commented, just clicked on our videos to watch them It just means the world to us. We're growing every day, and we just want to do this forever. This is our passion. This is our dream, and this is what we want to share with the world. So thank you guys so much for liking, commenting, and subscribing to our channel. And with that being said, this has been the Full Send Half Mast Podcast, Episode 2. We'll catch you guys next week, and stay tuned to all updates on the channel. And I will see you in the next one.